So today, I'm going to do the best that I can in the time restraints that I have to try to train on this law and really catch you up to speed. Right now, as many of you really decide, hey, look, you know what? I'm committed more than ever before. I'm more committed than I've ever been in my life to growing. I'm more committed than I've ever been before in my life to becoming the best possible leader that I can be. Many of you right now, you're saying, hey, look, you know what? I want to step up to the plate and I want to become the best leader and influence as many people as I possibly can. What are some things that I can do that is really going to help set me forth in motion? And really it's challenging yourself today to really absorb as much of this information as possible. So, with that being said, we're going to go and get kicked off here with the law of intuition. Now, law of intuition, as many of you know, it's a very hard law to teach, and the reason is because, as many of you know, it favors the natural, as someone that has natural leadership gift in it. So, I'm going to cover real quickly some of the keys. Law of intuition, understand the fact that leaders evaluate everything with a leadership bias. Okay, the law of intuition is based on facts coupled with instincts plus other intangible factors, okay, such as employee morale, organizational momentum, and relationship dynamics. So it's kind of like you get a sense for what's happening. When you're working with people, you know, it's what do you feel? Sometimes, I'll ask questions that you can't measure. I'll ask, Jordan, what's the morale of your organization? And he'll quickly be able to analyze it and tell me, because he has that intuition and he's developed it. It wasn't like, hey, look, you know what, he brought this to the table. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, man, when he was playing Pokemon cards, before he got involved in network marketing, it wasn't like he had that instinct. But now he can kind of feel the morale. You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, but it doesn't exist. So it's something that's intangible. So it really takes a leader to have that feeling of intuition of what really needs to happen. You know, what really needs to happen. You guys know, I just got done with my son, my youngest son's football game just now. Literally, we just, I was right down the street and came here and changed in the bathroom, and got suited up because we were out there in the football game. And we were going against a team that we were supposed to get blown out. They're averaging like 40 points a game. Our defense has been giving up like 24 points a game. Even though we're still having a great season, but we matched them up in the bowl, right? So the bowl game today, and I could sense that our best player wasn't all there. So I could just sense it by just looking at him, and you can sense it. Now the other coaches, I don't know if they sensed it or not, but it was obvious to me. So I started yelling his name like a crazy person. Do you guys hear that? And I started yelling his name, and I'm yelling his name, I'm saying, hey, you know what? Isaiah, I'm fired up. Isaiah, I'm fired up. Isaiah, I'm fired up. I'm just yelling at the top of my lungs. And then all of a sudden, he kicks it into gear, and he starts really stepping up and really making it happen. And we were, as the time expired, we were 2 yards away from winning the football game. And it was because you could see this guy raise up. We gave up 8 points. The final score was 8-0. You guys see that? But we were supposed to get blown out, but we were able to step up. And you could see this guy's leadership. Now, we haven't given up that few points all season long. So it was our best game on defense. But you could see how he just erupted. Once I started focusing in and zeroing in on him, he started running the ball like a crazy man. And it was insane. You could see the look in his face, man. It was amazing. But I could just tell, you sense it. When you work with people, you can sense if somebody doesn't feel right. You start to see someone's behavior change. And I always sense it before it shows up. You guys see that? If you're working with someone, you've got to be able to sense that. And I'm going to teach you guys a little bit how to see that. So the law of intuition often separates the great leaders from the really good ones. Okay? So it's really a separator, really kind of, as you understand this law, it really divides really the great ones from the people that aren't champions. So you want to get this law under your belt. Now, today, leadership intuition is the ability of a leader to read what's going on. Leaders are readers. Now, what are they readers of? Number one, leaders are readers of the situation. Leaders are readers of the situation. Okay? Leaders pick up details that might elude others. Now, watch this. Okay? They sense people's attitudes. They're able to detect chemistry of a team. They know the situation before they have all the facts. That's powerful.
Yes.
Whenever you look at a situation, you're able to have your instincts, be able to tell you what's happening. That's the law of intuition. Now, analyze this law. What you'll find out is what else leaders are readers of. Number two is leaders are readers of trends. Keep this in mind. Leaders discern where the organization is headed. Okay, oftentimes, watch this, oftentimes they sense it first and then find the data later to explain it. Their intuition tells them that something is happening, that conditions are changing. Leaders must always be a few steps ahead of their people. Or guess what, okay? They're not really leading. So you've got to be able to be a step ahead of everybody in your organization. You've got to pay attention to find out what's happening, really to help navigate them in the right direction. That's really the most important part of leadership, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago in training on the law of navigation. Now, watch this. This is something that's important. The law of intuition. Understand the fact, for your notes, that leaders are readers of their resources. Okay? Leaders think in terms of resources and how to maximize them for the benefit of the organization. They're continually aware of what they have at their disposal. So when you're working with an organization and you're working with a team of people, you've got to understand, hey, look, you know what? You can sense what's happening. You can sense and feel really what kind of resources you have available to you. You can tell, look, you know what? This is the person right here that I know has got those leadership abilities, and zero in and focus in on them and to help them grow faster because you can sense it. We're going to train a little bit more on how to do that a little bit later on. But right here also, keep in mind that guess what? Leaders are leaders of people. Okay? Intuition helps leaders sense what's happening among the people and their hopes, their fears, and their concerns. Reading people is perhaps the most important intuitive skills leaders can possess. So you've got to have that skill of, guess what? Being able to read people. And how do you get that feeling when you're talking to somebody and you're working with them, you can kind of feel what's happening. And that's that intuition skill that you want to be able to develop. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Here's the thing I want to share with you is this, that leaders are readers of themselves.
Yes.
Okay, this is important. Leaders must know not only their strengths, but watch this. They also got to know their weaknesses, but also their current state of mind. Why? Because leaders can hinder progress just as easily as they can create it. So guess what? You've got to look at yourself. You've got to be able to read yourself. Kind of find out, if you were to measure where you are right now, what do you need to work on for you to go to that next level? And you have that skill of going, hey, look, you know what? This is what I need to step up. Look at yourself. Look at where you are right now. And be able to read yourself. That's probably the biggest challenge of most people, is having the ability to, guess what? Be able to look at their situation, to look at where they are, and guess what? Be able to read their situation and say, hey, look, you know what? This is what I need to work on. And if you can focus in and zero in, and have enough ability to be able to do that, that's how you can change not just other people's lives, but also your life too, because that's what's going to help you lead people to the next level. Now, this is powerful. This is garage right here in 1976. Okay, 2066 Chris Drive in Los Altos, California, in that garage, history was being made. Okay, those two guys up there, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, were putting together Apple. And Jobs was more of the visionary, and Wozniak was kind of the brains. And Jobs was like, look, we've got to find a way. We have to find a way to go put a computer on a table. Kind of like, imagine every teacher, instead of having an Apple on their table, they had a computer.
Wow.
And that was his vision. So he sold that vision to Wozniak, right? Now remember, computers at that time were the size of this room plus. So Wozniak's responsibility was, guess what? To find something that's the size of this room and make it the size of an apple. So it could go on all the teachers' desks. So guess what happened? They made it happen in that garage. History was made in that garage. Can you imagine being the neighbors? Hey, I wish you guys would quiet down over there. Right? Why are they so loud, right? I wish they would get some sleep, But in that garage right there, history was made. In Steve Jobs' dad's garage. Now watch this. Now keep in mind, you guys, look at the dates. I want you guys to be aware of the dates. The dates is the dramas and the details. Right? Watch the dates. Watch the dates. It's powerful. Right? So you guys get ready for this. Alright, you go with that one. Okay? Here it is, you guys. I pushed the button. I got too passionate. Sometimes you just get fired up and carry away. Okay, this is in 76. Okay, watch this. That's when they started, okay? In 4 years, 4 years later, Apple goes public. Okay? And when they go public, at $22 a share, selling 4.6 million shares to 40 employees and investors. 40 employees and investors become millionaires overnight.
Wow.
Overnight. So one day they wake up, 40 of them multi-millionaires, okay? And So they opened up it, obviously sold, if you sell 4.6 million shares at $20 a share, there's a lot of money there. So that's when it first started. Now keep this in mind. This is just the beginning. Because things change. Okay? Now 5 years later, Steve Jobs, he has to leave the company. The company he founded, he has to leave it. He's forced out by a guy by the name of John Sculley, who Jobs recruited 2 years prior. So John Sculley now comes in as the CEO. Steve Jobs has to resign. And now guess what? The helm of the ship is now in charge by who? John Sculley. So what happens? Well, it's pretty obvious, okay? In 1993, basically what happens is, guess what? They have another CEO. I want you guys to look at this. Okay? They have another CEO. Why? Because the other guy failed. Miserably. And now Apple's tanking. Watch this. Okay? Michael Spindler becomes the CEO. But I want you guys to remember the dates. Remember the dates. Look at the dates. This is what's important. This is September 16th. You guys remember that date? September 16th. Watch what happens. Now, 93, Spindler becomes the CEO. Okay, the deal tanks. So now they've had two CEOs, none of them can figure it out. That magic that Steve Jobs had. 1996, guess what? Good news, guys, we got a new CEO. Gilbert Amelio. And guess what happens? Not much, okay? So at this time, Jobs blown up Pixar, his company Next. He's taking those companies to the next level. And he says, look, my little baby is sick. Right? I need a company to fix it. So before Steve Jobs left, Apple sold 14.6 of all computers. That was before he left. Now, September 16th, he comes back. 12 years later, Apple's at 3.5%. So those meatballs took it from 14.6 and tanked it to 3.5. And when Jobs comes in, you guys, a lot of people know this, when Jobs comes in, they're a few months away from being bankrupt. Yep. So Steve Jobs shows up, he's going, oh my God, this thing's about to die. So he makes some moves. His intuition kicks in. Now watch what his leadership intuition does. First thing he's going to do, this is powerful, okay? Now keep in mind, today, I want you guys to be aware of something. Today, after, because of his leadership, and I'm going to tell you where the turning point was, consumer market share of Mac is operating at about 25%. Now here's the deal, and climbing. 40% of all college students have a Mac.
Wow.
Do you see that? So it's kind of obvious to see, right, where the future is. Would you guys agree with that?
Apple.
That's right there, right? So watch what happens. Here's the key. The turning point was right here. This was the deal, okay? Right when he comes in, takes the company over, he calls up the arch nemesis. And whenever people found out about it, everybody booed. All the shareholders, and they had a big meeting and everybody was so upset. But this was the defining moment that saved Apple. Watch this. I called up Bill and said, I'm going to turn this thing around. Said Bill always had a soft spot for Apple. He goes, we got into the application software business. The first Microsoft apps were Excel and Word for the Mac. Okay, so I called him and said, I need help. Microsoft was walking all over Apple's patents. And so basically what was going on was Microsoft was in a lawsuit with Apple. Okay? And I said, look, if we keep our lawsuits, a few years from now, we would win $1 billion patent. So basically what would happen is they would win $1 billion patent suit if they would let it go for a couple years. Okay? But he says, you know it, and I know it. But Apple's not going to survive that long. If we're at war. He says, I know that. So let's figure out how we can settle this thing right away. All I need is a commitment from Microsoft. We'll keep developing for Mac, and an investment by Microsoft in Apple, so so it has a stake in our success. So basically what he was saying was, okay, on all this thing is an investment by Microsoft. Did you guys catch that? Not so much, hey, we want you to keep developing our apps. It was more, we need you to invest. So Bill Gates dropped $150 million on Apple. Who was the bad guy? So these guys are at war. But Jobs calls him up, and guess what he does? He gets him to become his partner because of his intuition. He knew what was going on, but he also knew the right things to say. So now what's going on, you guys? Look at where they are today. 25% of all the computers. And they were almost dead. The company was almost literally out of business. But because of his intuition, because of his leadership instinct, he had to be able to turn around. What about those other two guys? Those three guys. They tanked the deal. They took it from 14.6% to 3.5%. It's leadership. That's what it's all about. So watch this. Without intuition, leaders can become blindsided. And that's one of the worst things that can happen to a leader. If you want to lead well and stay ahead of others, you've got to obey their law of intuition. Now let me give you an example. Okay? This is Albert Einstein, what Albert Einstein says about the situation. And then I want to give you guys a chance to watch another one of John's law. Here's the thing I want you to realize. When you look at the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, okay, one of the hardest ones for people to get under their belt is the law of empowerment. That's where the magic takes place. And we're going to cue that video up in a second, but I want to close out with this right here. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is the faithful servant. Pay attention to what he's saying. Watch this. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, okay? And the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten about the gift. We will not solve problems of the world from the same level of thinking we were when we created them. More than anything else, this century demands new thinking.
That's right.
Wow. That's Albert Einstein. So all we have to understand, guess what? Is right now is the time. There's a moment in time right now that will never be recreated and duplicated again. And that time is for you to say, hey, look, you know what? I'm going to get this law of intuition. I'm going to learn this so I can really hone in on my leadership skills and take it to the next level. How many are committed to learning the law of intuition? If you are, say, ah. Yes, let's get committed more than ever before.